Hey everybody, so it's time for another redraft video where I redraft the top 10 picks from different NHL drafts. Last month we did the 2000 draft. Like I said, I want to do one of these per month. So today we are going to look at the 2001 NHL draft. Now before we get into the video, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please hit that thumbs up button and give the video a like. That greatly helps out the channel. And if you're new to the channel and happen to be watching, please hit that subscribe button and follow along for all my hockey content. So the 2001 NHL draft took place in Florida. The Atlanta Thrashers had the first overall pick that year. And it was an interesting draft. There were a lot of swings and misses in this draft. Overall, I would say it was probably one of the weaker drafts that we're going to look at. There weren't a lot of high-end players taken in this draft. Or there were players that they thought would be high-end players, but they never really panned out. A lot of good players were taken in this draft, solid middle-of-the-lineup guys, but there was not a lot of superstar talent available in 2001. So the last video that I did, the last redraft video, went almost to half an hour. I want to try and cut that time down a little bit. I feel like that was too long. So let's get right into it here, starting with the first overall pick. And just a reminder, hindsight is always 20/20. We know how these players turned out and how their careers went. So I'm not trashing on any teams here for picking the wrong guy. I'm just looking back, and this is what could have been had these teams drafted correctly. So the first overall pick was Ilya Kovalchuk to the Atlanta Thrashers. Kovalchuk was, by far the most hyped up player and probably the best player to come out of this draft. He's gone on to have a very good NHL career despite where it's at right now. He did leave for Russia after the 2013 season for a number of years, which really leads to the question of what if he had stayed in the NHL? How much better would his career numbers be? Kovalchuk, as of right now, he's still on the LA Kings, although that's an interesting situation I've already talked about in other videos. He could potentially be getting traded, but he's still in the NHL as of right now. He's played 897 career games, scoring 436 goals, 423 assists for 859 career points, and a minus 152 career rating, which he's played on a lot of bad teams, so that obviously doesn't help that. But very, very solid NHL career for Ilya Kovalchuk. Through the 2000s, he was an absolute superstar. Into the 2010s even. Then he left for Russia. Hasn't been good really since he's come back to the NHL from Russia. And you really wonder how much different these numbers would be had he never left the NHL to go play in the KHL. He'd certainly be over 1,000 games played. He'd probably be over 1,000 points. And I think things would look even better for Ilya Kovalchuk. But anyway, who should the Atlanta Thrashers have taken with that first overall pick? Well, they got it right. Ilya Kovalchuk is the best player to come out of this draft. He had the biggest upside, the highest ceiling. Again, his career numbers would be a lot higher if he had never left the NHL. That excursion back to Russia certainly limited what his totals could be. But again, still almost 900 career games played, almost 900 career points. Very, very, very good player. And the best pure talent to come out of this draft in my mind. Second overall pick belonged to the Ottawa Senators that year in 2001. And they took Jason Spezza with that second overall pick. And Spezza, still playing in the NHL, plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, has played 1,075 career games and counting. That's as of me recording this, scoring 333 career goals, 586 career assists for 919 career points and a +6 rating. Spezza played on some very, very good teams with Ottawa. He's played in Dallas. He's now playing in Toronto. Spezza's put a very, very nice NHL career together, and the Ottawa Senators were correct in taking Jason Spezza second overall. He was the right choice there. Really, when he came into the league with Ottawa, he became an impact player almost right away, And through the 2000s, the mid to late 2000s with the Senators, he was part of an incredibly good line with Daniel Alfredsson and Danny Heatley, with him in the middle. Went to a Stanley Cup with the Ottawa Senators in 2007. Just had a very, very strong career, and 100% worthy of being the second overall pick. The third overall pick belonged to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2001, and with that pick, they took Alexander Svitov, who, as you can see by the career numbers, never really made it at the NHL level. Fun fact, Svitov is currently still playing hockey in the KHL back in Russia. And from what I've seen, he's a pretty darn good player in the KHL. However, he never really found his game at the NHL level, only playing 179 career games, scoring 13 goals, 24 assists for 37 points, and a -22 rating. Not what you want to see from a third overall pick, especially if you're the team that drafted him. So who could the Tampa Bay Lightning, or who should they have taken with the number 3 pick? Jason Pominville, who originally went 55 overall in the second round to the Buffalo Sabres. Pominville went on to have a tremendous NHL career between Buffalo and Minnesota, playing 1,060 career games, scoring 293 goals and 434 career points for 727 career points, 434 career assists, and a +44 rating. Pominville played on some great Buffalo teams through the mid-2000s. Really good impact player for the Sabres for a long time. Then he went to Minnesota, had some solid seasons in Minnesota, and has since went back to the Buffalo Sabres, where he ended his career. He's currently not playing anymore in the NHL, and I would say, I don't think he's officially retired yet, but he's done at the NHL level. But Pominville in his prime was an extremely good player, had a lot of upside, and put some really good seasons together, and definitely would have been a much better pick at number 3 overall than Svitov turned out to be. With the 4th pick in the 2001 NHL draft, the Florida Panthers selected Stephen Weiss. And Stephen Weiss went on to have a decent NHL career, mostly with Florida, a couple seasons with Detroit at the end, but never really turned into the player that you would hope a top 5 NHL draft pick would turn into. He ended up playing 732 career games, scoring 156 goals, 267 assists for 423 career points, and a -23 rating. Solid career, was a good second-line guy, a good third-line guy later in his career. Had some nice seasons, especially with the Florida Panthers, but not exactly what you hope for when you're drafting someone 4th overall. They could have had a better player, and they should have taken Patrick Sharp with that 4th overall pick. Patrick Sharp was originally drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers, 95th overall, but he went on to have a great NHL career, most notably with the Chicago Blackhawks, where he won 3 Stanley Cups with Chicago and was a huge part of those Stanley Cup winning teams in the early 2010s. Sharp played a career 939 games, 287 goals, 333 assists for 620 career points, and a +39 rating. Again, he kind of faded out at the end, but those years in Chicago, he was a top-end player for the Chicago Blackhawks when they were winning Stanley Cups. And he would have been a much better off pick at 4th overall than Stephen Weiss turned out to be. And Sharp went on to have a great career and now works for NBCSN as an analyst during hockey games. 5th pick overall in 2001 belonged to the Anaheim Ducks, and they selected Stanislav Chistov with that pick. And as you can see, probably looking at those career numbers, Stanislav Chistov did not work out as a top 5 draft pick. Chistov only played 196 career games, scoring just 19 goals and 42 assists for 61 points and a -20 rating throughout his career. He just never really stuck at the NHL level. and never got his game on track in the National Hockey League. So, who should Anaheim have taken with that pick? Well, at 5th overall, they could have had Mikko Koivu, who originally went 6th overall to the Minnesota Wild. Mikko Koivu has had a great NHL career as a high-end two-way center, second-line guy who's put up good points while also being a tremendous defensive player. Really an underrated, somebody who's never really thought of in the Selke conversation, but very much that kind of player, and someone who I think is very underrated in that way and in that sense. But Mikko Koivu has still playing for the Minnesota Wild, the team that drafted him. Has, as of recording this, has played 991 career games, 203 goals, 492 assists for 695 points and a plus 68 career rating. He will obviously add to those numbers as this season and his career goes along. But Koivu has put together a very, very solid NHL career. And imagine if Anaheim had taken him at 5 instead of Stanislav Chistov, who flamed out very quickly. So, number 6, 6th overall, obviously, as I just said, was Mikko Koivu going to the Minnesota Wild. However, in this redraft, Mikko Koivu is no longer available, assuming Anaheim takes him at 5. So then who should Minnesota have taken at 6 if Koivu wasn't there? Michael Camilleri, who went on to have a very solid NHL career as a scoring winger. He was originally drafted 49th overall by the Los Angeles Kings. He played a number of very good seasons in the NHL as kind of a second-line goal scorer. 906 career games played, 294 career goals, 348 assists for 642 career points and a minus 54 rating. Camilleri played for a few different teams in the NHL, including LA, Calgary, New Jersey, Edmonton. He kind of moved around a decent amount, but he was always a pretty solid second-line type goal scorer wherever he went. Definitely slowed down at the end of his career, but overall, a really, really nice player and a solid guy to have in your lineup. Number 7th overall, that pick belonging to the Montreal Canadiens, where they took defenseman Mike Komisarek with the 7th overall pick, who, first defenseman taken in the draft, did go on to have a somewhat solid NHL career, especially through his time with Montreal. Then he went to Toronto and things started to go downhill, and he finished up with the Carolina Hurricanes. But solid career, but definitely not what you would want out of a top 10 pick for a defenseman. He was very much largely a defensive defenseman, did not produce a lot offensively, and quite frankly, Montreal could have done better with this top 10 pick. So Komisarek ended up with 551 career games played, scoring 14 goals and 67 assists for 81 points and a minus 19 rating. But, solid career, but not really top 10 worthy. Montreal could have had Ales Hemsky, who was originally drafted 13th overall by the Edmonton Oilers. He ended up having a long, very solid NHL career as, again, kind of similar to Mike Camilleri as like that second-line goal-scoring type. Played a long time with the Edmonton Oilers, also played with Dallas. Made a couple other brief stops, but mostly known for his time with Edmonton and Dallas. Hemsky played 845 career games, scoring 174 goals, 398 assists for 572 career points and a minus 53 rating. Again, playing in Edmonton never helps your plus-minus rating. But anyway, over 500 career points, over 800 career games played. Very, very solid career for Ales Hemsky. And he would have been a better top 10 pick than Mike Komisarek turned out to be. With the 8th overall pick, we had the Columbus Blue Jackets picking, and they were looking for goaltending, so they drafted Pascal Leclerc, 8th overall in 2001. Pascal Leclerc never panned out as an NHL starter, never really panned out as an NHL goaltender in general. He only started 164 games in his career, with earning a record of 61, 76, and 15. a 2.89 career goals against average, and a 904 career save percentage. Leclerc really only started one season where he was a full-time starter in the NHL, and just never really stuck at the NHL level. He was a backup for a few years, but wasn't really ever that high-end goaltender that Columbus hoped that they were drafting with this pick. So, who could Columbus have drafted? Well, the best goaltender, sticking with goaltending here, the best goaltender to come out of this draft is certainly Mike Smith, who is still playing in the NHL with the Edmonton Oilers this season and having a pretty nice year to start the season, if I might add. He was originally drafted 161st overall by the Dallas Stars. He was not on anyone's radar as one of the top goaltenders in this draft, although looking back now, he is clearly the best goalie to come out of this draft. Smith has started 562 career games in his NHL career, earning a record of 248 wins, 241 losses, and 69 combined ties and overtime losses, a 2.70 goals against average, and a career .912 save percentage. Mike Smith has put together a very, very solid NHL career and would have been a much better pick in the top 10 for Columbus if they were looking for goaltending than Pascal Leclerc turned out to be. With the 9th overall pick, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, who took Tuomo Ruutu, 9th overall in 2001. And Ruutu did have a solid NHL career, I will give him that, but he was never really more than a third liner. He lasted a long time in the league, but he largely played as a third line guy in kind of that shutdown two-way center role. He played for Chicago. He played a long time in Carolina and also played for the New Jersey Devils, putting up 735 career games, 148 career goals, 198 career assists for 346 points, and a -70 rating. Again, solid NHL career, not a bad player, but not exactly what you're looking for with a top 10 draft pick, where I think you're looking for more than a third-line center. And the Chicago Blackhawks could have had Derek Roy, who originally went 32nd overall to the Buffalo Sabres at number 9. Roy just had a much higher offensive upside than Tuomo Ruutu did and ended up having some more high-scoring seasons, to say the least. He played 738 career games, scoring 189 goals, 335 assists, and 524 career points, as opposed to Ruutu's 346 career points in very similar number of games played, and a +29 rating. Again, Buffalo got Derek Roy and Jason Pominville both in the later rounds of this draft. Neither were first-round picks, but Buffalo got two winners there in real life. They should have been top 10 picks based on how the rest of this draft turned out in the long run. Roy, like Pominville, was a part of some very good teams in Buffalo, and he 100% should have gone 9 overall to Chicago, ahead of more than Tuomo Ruutu. And finally, with the 10th overall pick, the New York Rangers selected Dan Blackburn in 2001, another goaltender that absolutely did not pan out. He only played 2 NHL seasons, starting 55 games. He went 20, 32, and 4 in those games with a career goals against average of 3.22 and an .894 save percentage. He was a massive, massive draft bust as a goaltender taken in the top 10. Never saw the NHL again after those 2 seasons with the Rangers, and it was very clear that everyone had pretty much given up on him. And Blackburn just did not work out at all for the New York Rangers, and they could have had a much better player with that 10th overall pick. They should have taken Dan Hamhuis, defenseman, who was originally taken 12th overall by the Nashville Predators. He could have easily gone here at number 10. He's still currently in the NHL playing for the Nashville Predators, although he's played for some other teams in between stints with Nashville. But he's still in the NHL, still producing. As of right now, he's played 1,104 career games, scoring 59 goals, 290 assists, for 349 points as a defenseman and a plus 70 overall rating. He's had some very good seasons in Nashville early in his career with the Vancouver Canucks, with the Dallas Stars. Now he's back with Nashville in more of a veteran bottom pair role, but still very solid defenseman, very solid career, and definitely would have been a better 10th overall pick. So there is my redraft of the top 10 picks in the 2001 NHL draft, who was actually taken versus who should have been taken. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.